Hi guys, welcome back to another GGF video review. Today we've got two products on review for you. You've got some latest gear from AMD. We've got the AMD A10 5800K APU/CPU. It's got integrated video as well. We'll get onto this a little bit later. And we've also got this Gigabyte board, the F2A85X-UP4, and that's based on the socket FM2. Alright, first off we'll go on to the CPU. We'll get this little one out of the way. You can see on the screen I've listed all the versions there. We're doing the very first one on the left column. So it's an A10 5800K, the black edition, which is the latest one or the highest model you can get. It's the A series. It's actually, they call it an APU. It's got GPU built in. It's got a max turbo of 4.2 gig, and I believe the stock is 3.8, and it's the unlocked one. Alright, let's bring it up on the screen and we'll just go through some quick features. It's got an integrated HD Radeon 7660D GPU built into it, so to play some games we'll go through later, you don't actually need a video card on your motherboard. Max power is 100 watt. The GPU core has 384 cores, 800 MHz core clock, and for CPU cores we have 4, and your CPU clock it's 4.2 and 3.8 normal. 4 meg cache for the CPU. DDR3 is 1866. That'll be stock. You'll be able to overclock higher, and it's got AMD Turbo Core 3, and it's unlocked, as it says it's the black edition. Alright, I'll just open this up now. There's probably not too much to go on to with this, just the cooler and the CPU. Okay, so there's the CPU there. You get a nice little case sticker, A series. Sit there. Your standard pins, which AMD do. And then we've got just a little booklet that opens up on how to install it in case you've never done it before. And I'll just pop out the cooler, and that's it there. Just a small little cooler. Alrighty, we'll move this out of the way. Onto this Gigabyte board now. We'll just go over the box. It's the UP4. It's on the A85X chipset, socket FM2. It's got 3D BIOS like we reviewed before on some Gigabyte boards. It's the fancier, the latest UEFI BIOS. Let's move around to the back. There we go. Okay, let's see, we've got dual BIOS, so if you're overclocking you can revert back to the other BIOS if something's failed. It has 2x copper PCB, DirectX 11 built in, so if you're running a APU like the CPU we've got in it, it'll run DirectX straight out of that. It's got triple monitor support straight off the motherboard, so we'll go through that a little bit later on. We're going to actually hook 3 screens up and show you how you can get 3 screens running in Eyefinity without having to have a dedicated GPU at all. It has 2A Crossfire X, DisplayPort, HDMI, it's got DVI, as it says dual link DVI. It's also got D-Sub, and it's got all Japanese caps. Right, let's see, what else do we have? It's got that Virtua MVMP, so that's what you'll need when you're running the extra screens, and Windows 8 ready. Alright, so let's go through and we'll open this up now and see what you get inside. Okay, can you see that? Alright, we have the IO shield, standard there, Gigabyte warranty note there, manual, I think there's a CD in there as well, yep. We have the quick start guide. Let's see, we have SATA, so 1 straight, 1 right angle. Same again, 1 straight, 1 right angle. Same again. We have a little Gigabyte case badge. And then here's the board itself. Alright, now the board's out of the box, we'll just quickly go over all the different features on it. So up the top we have the standard 8-pin EPS connector, which you can see there. Moving over, we've got the CPU socket FM2, which will support this A10 and other A series CPUs. Over to the DDR3, it supports 1866 like I said before, and it will support more for overclocking. Up the top hand corner, if you can see that switch there, that'll be the switch to switch between the dual BIOSes. And just onto the right of that we've got the power switch And a little bit lower we have the reset switch, which is good that it's nice and small, so you're not going to knock it. Moving down a bit, we have the 24-pin ATX power supply connector. Then down a bit lower we have the USB 3 front header for your case. Down a bit more we have the SATA. There's 6 there. They all run at SATA 3. I believe this board's got a total of 8. It's got 1 on the back, 3 there, oh sorry, 6 there, and it's got 1 down a bit lower. So yeah, 8 total for SATA 3. Down a bit lower we got the dual BIOS chips there. You can see there's 1 and 2. So if your overclocking fails or something stuffs up, you can just revert to the other one. Down a bit lower we have the 2-digit display for diagnostics readings, and we'll see later on in Windows if we can change that to the live temperature reading. So we'll have a look at that later on. There's the bottom SATA 3. Moving over, you got your front panel connectors. There's a fan connector, USB on there. That's just your standard USB 2. That's a charge one, so it's extra power for charging phones and that. And then we got 3 more, which is standard USB 2. And then we have your COM port and front panel audio. Now moving up to the PCI Express and the PCI connectors, we'll start at the top. You have 1, 2, 3, 3 1-bys for sound cards and anything like that. Then we got 1, 2, 3 PCI Express 16-by. So the top one is a full 16. The second one is an 8. So they're your 2 ones you put your video cards if you're running Crossfire. And the third one is it's a 16-by length, physically 16-by, but it only runs at 4-by. So it's not advised to run a video card in that one. On the back connectors now, we have the multi-combo PS2 and keyboard header there for keyboard mouse. We have 2 USB 3 there. We'll just take these little plugs off so we can see those better. Okay, so this will be your DVI, dual link, your D-sub, your HDMI and DisplayPort. So later on we're going to put 3 screens on this and do a bit of gaming and that in Windows and let you see how that goes. We've got optical there for your audio. There's your eSATA, and then we have your standard non-USB 2, so if you're running a keyboard and mouse they can go in there. More USB 3, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4 USB 3 on the back. There's your 1 gig network card on there, and then we got your standard 3.5mm audio jacks there. Okay, so that looks like it for these 2 products. So what we're going to do now is put this in our test bench and we'll fire it all up and we'll see how we go. Welcome back guys, we got the system up and running as you can see over here. If you just want to walk in. Set it up on our test bench. We've got 32 gigs of RAM in it. It booted up fine first time, so we're just in the BIOS now. We'll show you some features in there. We've got a SATA 3 SSD, so we'll do some benchmarks once we're in Windows. We've actually got it on a power meter, just on this power board. As you can see, it's drawing about 138 watts, so it'll probably be a bit less in Windows, so we'll cover that as well once we boot up. Now, as you can see, this is the first screen you see. Actually, before you actually greeted with this screen when you first boot, but I like to start off, if you hit F1, it shows you the 3D BIOS, which you can see down here, which they talk about. And then you can see as you move your mouse around the actual motherboard, it highlights with different features. So this is your very basic mode for configuring different features in the BIOS. Instead of having to go through the advanced menus, so straight away you can click on system tuning. So this would be anything to do with your CPU and RAM. So if I click on that, it's got frequency tuning for your CPU, front side bus, and it's also got your graphics clock in there. So it's kind of strange. I've never actually dealt with an AMD APU before, but you actually overclock your video through the BIOS because it's on the CPU. So you actually can overclock your CPU and your video card. Now you've got memory tuning and timing, channel A, channel B, and then your voltages there as well. So we can just hit the X up the top. And actually, just let me go back to there. Once you can slide that out, you actually got full functionality of moving windows around. If you go over to the right, you've got a little quick menu of, let's see, we've got temperature. It's actually quite hot in here. It's a very hot day today, so that's why that's quite hot. We've got voltages, fan speed, memory, memory banks, what the timings are at. I've actually got 2 different sets of RAM in here, so that's probably why the timings are showing up different. And then we've got your other fan speeds and temperatures. So that'll be the motherboard temp there. Okay, so let's close that. So we'll move around. We've got SATA, drive control, enable, disable, and the type, I've set it to native IDE. Moving around, chipset features, so this is just like full screen logo, this looks like your boot options, numlock, etc. What else do I have? Alright, here's your PC Express expansion slots. Pretty much I can just set what's going to be the primary video card for boot up, and it will pretty much detect it anyway. So I booted off the HDMI and straight away the TV found it first off, so there were no dramas there. Okay, moving up a bit, what's left? We've got the integrated devices, so we've got your rear panel, we've got your audio, your LAN, disable, enable, and your USB. We've got USB 3, legacy for keyboards and mice in the BIOS and that, and enable all USB devices, etc. Okay, so we got some quick links down the bottom, some extra info, so it just tells you which is the first boot device, so that'll be that. If you had more, you could probably choose which one. That's just your language there, leave that at default, it was English. This is your smart fan control for different fans you have on. We just got those left at the default, and if you click on this one, it just brings up the clock top left hand corner. Minimize it, and this is just load optimized defaults. So if I just hit F1 to go back to your more advanced mode, this is similar to your standard BIOSes here. So if we go MIT current status, which is on this main screen now, so this just shows you an overview of your CPU temperature, your clocks and your memory frequency, etc. So advanced frequency settings down below. If you hit enter on that. Alright, as you can see, that's if you want to do some tuning there. We'll just leave it all at stock for now, just to get it up and going in Windows, so it's at 3.8 now. Okay. So actually, yeah, so if you actually do hit MIT current settings, it actually brings you up a graph of what everything is set to, so your DIMMs, your core temp over each core, so there's 4 cores, 1, 2, 3, 4, just got your CPU ratio, and your frequency, etc. and all that. So that's just really just diagnostics and telling you what things are. Advanced memory, same thing as the one above it, but this one's just for your RAM control. So you've got your multiplier, and it's actually running 1600 now, and the voltage, etc. Advanced voltage will be for the CPU, the VGA, built into the CPU, and your motherboard voltages as well. And your PC health will just give you a list of all your voltages and your temperatures and your fan controls. Okay, moving over, we got your system information, BIOS version, access level, and your ATA port information. Not too much there. We'll go over to BIOS features. This is your standard numlock full screen, and then we got your boot mode. You can turn UEFI on or off. Right, we got some storage boot option control, so you can choose legacy first, UEFI, etc. Administrator password and that, so there's not too much there. Moving over to peripherals, this is probably one of your main ones. You can change your enable, disable your SATA type. As I said before, we've got it set it to IDE. You could do RAID, A, HCI, etc. Enable USB devices, onboard audio, I/O, MMU support. You can disable or enable that. Onboard LAN controller, you'd probably leave that. USB 3, leave that on, and legacy USB, which I said before, and USB 3 support, and just some other features there. And you've also got SATA 3 configuration, so you can set all those ports as well. So as I said, there were 8 before, so you go 0 to 7 gives you 8 SATA devices. Super I/O configuration, and that just disable or enable that SATA serial port A. That's probably the external. No, that's the serial port. Sorry, I read that as SATA port. Yes, so that's just to enable the COM port that they give you as well. Power management is your standard wake on, resume, and all that. Power on by keyboard, not too much there. And then you've got save and exit. So we'll do a little bit of overclocking later on. So this is just the main one to show what these new BIOSes are like and that. So we'll actually boot it up in Windows now and show you how this Infinity all works. We've got our 3 screens hooked up to this Gigabyte AMD system. If you come over here, you can see it all hooked up. We just use all the standard ports. We use the HDMI, DVI, and your standard D sub. So the system is off. I just wanted to show you how quick it is from booting first time. So at the moment it's using 5 watts, which is nothing, it's just all in standby. So this power meter is doing just the computer only, all the monitors are running off a different board. So if you just want to come out a bit, we'll just sort of focus on the screens. I'll quickly turn this on now. Now we can see this boot up. So it's running off a SATA 3 SSD. And we'll let this boot up. So at the moment all the 3 screens are just set individually. So there's just a standalone screen. I'll show you what it's like in a game just with one screen, and then we'll fire up Eyefinity and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that's straight off. All screens are detected fine. It finds what resolution they should be and sets it up. Okay, so I've installed the software. It was just the AMD Catalyst driver install. It was about 200 meg, and that sets everything up for you. I'll just open that up now. So that's it here now. As you can see, pretty much like your standard AMD video card drives, but it's got some few extra features in there because you're running the AMD Vision with your Trinity setup. Okay, I'll just close that down. We'll start up, if we have a look at the power draw now, if we head over there, it's currently at about 48 watts, so that's pretty awesome just for Windows work. So we've got a system running 3 screens that alone is just drawing 50 watts idle. Alright, so let's start up. We just set up COD 4. We're not going to try anything too fancy because remember, this is running a video card off a GPU. So you have to remember we don't have a card in here at all. So I'll start up a server, basic. We'll just check the settings, options, textures. So they're all, that's at low. Graphics, so 1920 by 1080. Everything's at yes and normal, so it's pretty much the highest. So we'll start up shipment, start that. So this game is running off the SSD, so straight away that's in. Just a flicker there. Alright. So you can see now it's getting about 39 frames. I might just turn that one off, I don't think that lights. Okay, alright, so as you can see that's not too bad. We are maxing out these settings, so to be completely running this game off a CPU, and we're running about 140, 135 watts, so if you were to run a standard, say, i7 system with a video card, you're looking at about 100 watts just for the i7 CPU. Then by the time you add in a 100, 200 watt video card, that would be a low-end card, you'd be hitting up to the 300 watt, and your frames will probably be about the same, a bit better. So you could easily whack in a actual for first video card. You could stick in a AMD card and crossfire it with this, and that would probably increase your frames to double. So you'd be able to play this comfortably around 100 frames. So if I look up the sky, it's like 90 frames. So it's certainly playable. I could just put these settings down a bit, and I could probably be running it over 60, which is fine. Okay, let's just quit out of this over here. So the CPU fan is a little bit noisy, but once again, it is really hot in here. And if you were going to set up a system like this and play games and use 3 screens, etc., I would recommend buying an aftermarket cooler or even a small water cooling unit. So we'll go to this AMD Vision. We'll go down to Eyefinity multi-display. So if you haven't done Eyefinity before, I'll show you how it's done. So you just create a group. You just select which ones you want. So we'll go continue. Just let that flicker. Okay, so over here we can set up which one. So we want a 3x1, so we want 3 in a row. Hit continue. Okay, now at the moment you can see my screens are all over the place. They're not right, so you just hit arrange like that, and that tells you which one is gone blue. So my right one's gone blue, my middle one's gone blue, and then it does the rest for you. So I've made up a wallpaper to fit this res, so now you can see this wallpaper comes into show. So, so as you can see, there's like no lag in there whatsoever. Everything's working fine. I don't think I'll attempt loading up Call of Duty 4 at this res. Even on running Tri-SLI systems, it even struggles playing games in 3 screens. So if this setup would be great for if you're using Excel, Word, just web browsing, things like that. It'd work no worries. So that's pretty much it on the system. We did some overclocking before. We ran it turbo and a bit high, but it's just too hot in here, and without an aftermarket cooler, it's the CPU temps were getting over 60, 65 degrees. So, but apart from that, it overclocks great. And so yeah, we'd like to thank AMD and Gigabyte for letting us review this gear, and thanks for watching.